We're up to number 7. Cool. We're up to number 7. Mitzvah say that is commonly transgressed when someone speaks Lashon Hara. Everything we've said until now, even if you're speaking Lashon Hara, not in a basement, not in a shul, over on another mitzvah say, umikdoshi tira'u. The mitzvah say to fear the Beis Hamikdash, to have a certain respect. Beis Hamikdash Shalom Gam Ken B'Kal Mikdashu. Our Beis Medrash is included in the din of Mikdash, Moshe Mavar B'Peskim, and therefore, when Stavinu was out clearer, the Gemara says, "Well, you're fearing the building? No, you're fearing the one who dwells in the building. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu." That's why you don't do all kind of calculations in the shul, unless it's for a mitzvah. If you're figuring the mitzvah, the tzedakah, pushka. Now this is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. It seems to, it's waiting, I think, for like a Chafetz Chaim to save it. Now I know they have these big thing, big movement. Victor's not here today, but it's very involved that don't talk during davening, right? But the whole idea of talking b'chlal in a shul or in a beis medrash, schmoozing, right? He's saying over here that's also b'mschoik v'itu v'sicha b'teila. Stam shmooze in a beis medrash. It's waiting for the goyel. Chafetz Chaim was goyel mitzvah of Torah. And I think this mitzvah, the Mikdoshi Tiro mitzvah, is waiting for someone to pick up the banner and run with it. Because it seems to me that it's there's a big zilzal. You walk into a yeshiva basement, right? Not always, shouldn't say always, but you walk in, people are waiting to daven. They come to shul, they came a little early, they're waiting to daven. What do? They schmooze with their friend. That's Sicha B'Teva. It seems from it that it's also to do that. You're in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Beis Hamikdash. That's Hashem's home. Hashem is there. Well, Amar was a shul tonight, and there's such a concept about making it tonight when you build the Knesset, which allows you to do certain things there. But he says this Sicha B'Teis Choshech Hitom that tonight won't help. He says if that's us, so certainly. Also, the Dabar Ben Lashon Hara Chilus. You certainly can't speak Lashon Hara Chilus in Hashem's palace. Amos Hashem Yisrach Hashochen, but they draw a parallel that a lot of Gedalim used to say about when you come to Eretz Yisrael. See, also in Hashem's palace, and therefore we have to be so much more careful in our Shmiras HaMitzvahs, not to do Averis in Eretz Yisrael. It has to be holier, Hashem's palace. But here, without going off on a tangent, the Beis Medrash and the Beis Knesset are certainly so. The Vad Yisrael besides, out of fear of HaKadosh Baruch who dwells in the Knesset and the Beis Medrash. So certainly, it's less to speak Lashon Hara and Rechilas. They're like in Hashem's face. The Vad Yisrael besides the seriousness of that Avera. Someone does speak Lashon Hara there. So what is he expressing? He's expressing that he doesn't believe that Hashem dwells in this. If he lived with that reality, that Hashem's here, this is Hashem's, you're in the throne room. You're there with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is where Hashem is, and that you come to daven here, closer to Hashem. If you speak Lashon Hara there, you're expressing that you don't believe that. You don't live with that. Therefore, he has the audacity. Even to speak Lashon Hara, you're transgressing the king's decree. It's much more serious if you do it in a palace than if you do it out on some farm. And on the bottom he says, "V'zeh Lashon Hazara Kodesh Pachas Truman." What's a Lashon Zohar? Someone speaks Sicha Betela, words of hope in the base Knesset says, Vaile the Achse Peruda, woe to him. He's showing Perud, showing separation. Vaile the Gora Mehemunusa, woe to him that he's minimizing, he's lessening his Hamuna. Vaile V'chulu the Achse, because he's showing, he's expressing. The less Elokoh, V'lo Yishtakach Taman, he's showing that there's no God and he's not there. Less like Chukah, and he doesn't have a portion in Hashem. And he's not fearful of him. I'm not sure what that means. He's being disgraceful in the Tikkun HaElyon Shamala. Why? Because the Chafetz Chaim writes in his Targum, Ki Beis HaKnesses Metukun Keneged HaMalchus Elyon. Beis HaKnesses is a parallel. It's parallel to the Malchus, the palace above. It's literally that this is where Kadosh Baruch Hu's at, this world. And when we speak Lashon Hara, we're certainly transgressing the mitzvah of Mikdash Tirov. And Vafilu, not finished. Vafilu Haloim De Torah B'Kriyas Beis Mesh, even those who sit and learn Torah there a whole day, so who tell them Lecha V'Lishtay Beis Mesh that there's a special leniency that they are allowed to eat and drink in the Beis HaMedrash, which is also seems to be not something you do in the palace, but it's a special leniency for those who are kavur and Beis Medrash Kamavur Baruch Chaim Siman Anal, right? Still, that doesn't mean they're allowed to sit around the table like they're in a dining room, joke around. This means in order to minimize the bittul Torah, they're not obligated to go out of the Beis Medrash to eat. But it doesn't mean that now that they're eating, he says, it doesn't. If they're going to stumble in the Yisrael Schoik, or Loshen Hara, Beis HaMedrash, or to speak Loshen Hara there while, they're schmoozing around. Hey, my real mitzvah said, they're certain transgressing this mitzvah. The Vad Misra Atzmi, Kmoshkasa Magen Avram. The author, he says, because Hatamim Cham Ameinu Musar Mara Mikdash. Is it that when we say they're allowed to eat and drink, that means they're exempt from the mitzvah of Mikdash Tiro? No, of course not. But b'di'evid, so to speak, they're allowed to eat and drink to them since they're learning. If the halacha would require them to go out to eat and drink, right? We know you go out to have the coffee room, you can spend half an hour there. This way, you can drink your coffee while you're in Beis Medrash. But in no way does that mean that they're not obligated in this mitzvah of Mikdash Tiro. Ayin Sham B'Mogen Avram in Stam Diburim She'en El Etzonis the Talmid Chacham Beis HaMedrash Ayin B'Mash Kasam Beis Hashem B'Chelik Gimel. He says, what about Schoik and Hito for sure is also even for Talmid Chacham. What about Stam Diburim? Stam Dishmuzik, not Lashon Hara, not Schoik, not Hito. So he says that you have to look what he wrote in Chelik Gimel. Now here we have a long Hagah, very long Hagah. So we'll do the next mitzvah say and Bli Neder. We remember tomorrow we'll go back to this Hagah. So number 8. Let's say the person is speaking Lashon Hara or Rechiz is about an elderly person that you know and in front of him you disgraced him with what you said. Even if he's an elderly Amoritz. There's another mitzvah say he's transgressing. It's a mitzvah to give honor, respect, an older man. If you're speaking Lashon Hara, speaking bad, negative things about him, you're not giving him respect. Va'af, in parentheses, the Chafetz Chaim Shezokin the Kohanim V'Acham, even though, if you look over there in the pasuk in the Mefarshim, it says without many zokim, we say Zeh Shekon Chachma. It's talking about a Talmud. Hayvadat or Pershu Razal, the Aseva Lefonov Namika, the pasuk says, if they save a tokum, but it's okay. And Chazal say that when it says it goes back also on the seva. The seva is an elderly person who's not a Talmud Chacham. Shehidu kibud dvar. How do you do hidur? You speak in praise of the person. And a double they're covered, but unless you speak to him with respect, as if he's the master, you give him respect. If you're disgracing him, certainly you're not respecting him if you speak bad. On top of that, if he's a chacham, even if he's not a zaken, but he's a talmud chacham, so you're also transgressing. You speak about a talmud chacham negatively in front of him, so you're not doing the mitzvah of giving him honor. The zaken the kra hainu chacham. The zaken we said means zeshakana chacham. Well, it doesn't mean necessarily an older person. It means talmud chacham. Yidashina zeshakana chacham. Ulevad parentheses. Mashakam upon by days elisha chacham or demavasa tamir chacham. Besides that, when you're speaking negatively, it's speaking lashon about a talmud chacham. Many times you'll transgress another issur of mevasa talmud chacham. The halacha says that if you are mefasa talmud chacham, you go into the category of being an apikaris. So come on now, Hashem. He says further on, we'll discuss that more. End of parentheses. Let's say it's an older talmud chacham. Then oiva mitzvahs v'hadat b'kaflayim, and you doubly transgressing the mitzvah of hadat b'nei zaken. But he's saying this is when you're doing it in front of him, because the mitzvah is to give him respect. So if he's not there, it's not an issue. Yes, respect and no respect. But if you speak in Lashon Hara, saying negative things about him in front of him, then you are doing the opposite of the requirement of the mitzvah to give him respect, right? So that's in those cases when you're speaking Lashon Hara in front of a zoken or a chacham. Now in the Shmiras Halashon, Shara Torah Perik Yud. Okay, he's over here. We're talking more about that a person without Torah. He's discussing the Chazal. Chazal used a parallel mashal of someone without Torah, like a fish out of water. So here we have in Shana Pshuta Vav Iyyar, V'zel L'Shoineh, Vav Iyyar. What's today? Tonight is Vav Iyyar, right? Tonight is already Vav by us. Right, Simcha?
Yeah, tonight's Vav.
Vav. So this is the piece for today. Okay. Hold up. There's a pasuk There's a pasuk in Tehillim. Eis lasos Shem time to do fast. And in Parshas Truma, the Zohar says like this: calls in the daraisa miskaima ba'alma. As long as the Torah exists in this world of Leinoshim Mishtadlam, and people are being oisik in Torah, with the Chodei Ba'oivdei Yodai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is happy with he created B'chodei Ba'omen Kulu, and is happy with all of the worlds. Shmaya v'aret kiyomen v'kirmayu, and the skies, the heavens, and the earth exist. They're strong. They're Veloid, and not only that, that's when someone's learning Torah. Veloid, the Kuchabrichu Kodesh Kol Pamayati Levamola. There's a famous song, Chazu Chazu Bonai, how they leave their own troubles and stuff, and Sameach, the Simcha Dilan, the learning of Torah. They sing it a lot on Shuas. They say it was written by Reb Chaim Valoshin. But in any case, this Zohar seems to be the source for the idea behind it. It says, in a few places we find this expression. By Elenu we find it, by the Haggadah. The Zohar says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls together all of his legions, all the malachim, the Pamalya delay. He calls them together, and he says, Kamu Ama Kadisha Disli Bara. Look at this holy nation. When Klal Yisrael is being Isaac the Torah, you should know you have a what's it called? You have what's the English word? You have an audience. You're sitting with this medrash with your chavrus, you're learning, you have an audience. The audience is HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'chol pamaliyos of the way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls them all together and says, come look at this holy nation that I have on earth. Doraisa mis'atra b'gineo, that because of them the Torah is crowned. Chavu oivdei yodi da'atun amartun mo'enish kitis gerenu, when Hashem wanted to create Adam, the Malachim said, Adam, why would you create him? Why would you think about it? That's what you said. Look, look at my success. Look, I have a nation here that's learning Torah. And when the Palmalia sees the simcha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in his nation, Klal Yisrael, Miyad Poskei V'Amri, they respond with a pasuk in Divrei Yomim, Mika Amcha Yisrael Goyechad Ba'aretz, who's like your nation, Yisrael, a nation, a one nation on earth. That's what's going on. When Klal Yisrael is Isaac, you go into a base medrash, and there's Ritcha Daraisa, and everyone's involved in the Torah. You should know there's an audience, and there's a discussion, and Akash Baruch is calling everyone together, all the malachim, come see my nation. And they're saying, wow. They're saying, wow, Mika Amcha Yisrael Gayachad Ba'aretz B'Shata Yisrael Mispat Ba'aretz. The other side, Klal Yisrael is not learning Torah. Aviyachol Torah Shchila. It's as if to say that Akash Baruch Hu is weakened. Aviyachol. Ukedein Eis Lasos Lashem. And at that point, it's Eis Lasos Shem. That's the time when you got to pick up the art. Inam B'nei Alma, these are the people, tzadikai dishtar, the tzadikim that are left, that are learning Torah, that are being oisip with Torah. They're the Eis Lasos Lashem. Now's the time to step up to the bat. When Torah is weak in Klal Yisrael, Islam, L'chagro, Chartzin, they have to tie their belts on, right? Strengthen themselves. And do actions that are right. Mitzvahs begin the kuchabrichu. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu will Kaviyach will be strengthened, will rejoice with these tzaddikim, with all of Hashem's malachim, right? Because they're picking up the baton of learning Torah. My timer begin the Hefer Torah. Why is it say Hashem? Why is it a time specifically at this point to do? Because Hefer Torah, because the rest of Klal Yisrael dropped the Torah. They're not learning Torah. They're not learning as they should. So it's an opportunity to pick up the baton, so to speak, and be those people that Akash Baruch Hu and Pamaya Delay are going to listen to and rejoice with, and Kaviyachol strengthen, give strength to Hashem. Ubeprapis Manenu continues the Chafetz Chaim to finish this, especially in our time. Interesting. It's an aside, but if you ever read any of Rabbi Miller's writings about the Forbin in Europe, he says many people have in their minds this picture. Oh, in Europe it was full of terror. He says he was there. He says I was there. No one can tell me stories. It's true that there were yeshivas learning terror, but everything at a yeshiva was falling apart. People were assimilating. They were communists. They were whatever. Torah was totally falling apart before the war. It was just in the yeshivas there were strongholds. But he says, I was there, you can't tell me stories. That's the Chafetz Chaim, who was basically at the same time. He says, when we see now Bechushba, when we say Shana Orim, Shesorim Torah, that the next generation, the children are leaving Torah. Nasa Etzam Hefker, Amkin Isra Shabbos, Sharisrim, and even Halal Shabbos Hefker, the transgressing them. Again, bevade chiv gadol called Avos Tzibon b'Teres Hashem l'Gilim and Tzvayis. So certainly Like we said, Eis Lasher Hashem, this is the time when the fathers have to strengthen their sons. Send them to learn Torah. Accustom them, teach them to do mitzvahs. And your reward will be so much greater. Much more than the earlier generations where Torah was flourishing. But now Torah is on the decline. So anyone who jumps in there is an action. He jumps into the river, into the Yarden, and raises his kids specifically to Torah. He has even more schak. He's above his Torah Nasan. There's mea pamah b'tzar mipamacha shloi b'tzar. That the mitzvah done with tsar, with difficulty, is worth 100 times more than a mitzvah, the same mitzvah done without tsar. Emar, and a plus in Yecheskel, Akanim, Alavim, Bnei Tzodek, Asher Shomer, that they kept the Torah, they would be the ones who would come close to serve me. Because now he's finishing Shar HaTorah.
Why were they weakening in Torah? I didn't catch that.
Why were they? Where?
Why were they weakening in Torah? I'm sorry?
In Europe you're talking about?
Because of the war?
No, before the war. Klal Yisrael was assimilating.
Assimilating.
Klal Yisrael was assimilating. There was the Yovetskas, there were the communists, they were assimilating. Klal Yisrael was the average Jew out there was not keeping Torah mitzvahs anymore, and it was all going down now. That's what the kind of says. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like it sounds like a just living amongst the Goyim problem. Also, you like even in America, like the assimilation ratio is high.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. Right? It is true.
Right. So why is that to be considered? I mean, it's supposed to try to mechazik Torah in an environment where you're losing because of the outside environment. Why wouldn't they just change the environment to be amongst more Jews?
Listen, if you could do that, you could do it.
No, because the Gemara doesn't the Gemara say it's better to be in Israel, even in a city of Al-Kochavim, rather than Chutzarts and with Jews?
I have no idea.
It's the Gemara Ksubas. It sounds like the actual environment doesn't.
Listen, there was the famous conversation the Satmar Rebbe with the Chazon Ish. You know the conversation? Satmar Rebbe said, like that the Rambam paskins that if you're living amongst the people who are not Torahic, you should go out to the desert. That's what he said to Chazon Ish. How could you stay here? It says you got to leave and go to the desert. And the Chazon Ish answered that the Beis Medrash has the gather of the desert. So I don't know what Gemara you're referring to, but this is a very famous
I'll send it to you.
Discussion. I'm sure you will, but what does that have to do with us?
What? It has a lot to do with us. It's because they're sitting in a scenario saying, "Whoa, we have to mechazik Torah," but you're doing it in a place and where the odds are pulling against you because. And in fact,
why do you say that? Listen, the numbers show otherwise. Torah in Eretz Yisrael is getting stronger and stronger. More people learning Torah, more people coming back to the fold, so to speak. Many more people. If anything, the tide has turned. But after the War of Independence, the firm Jews thought that it was all over for them. They thought there'd be no Torah anymore. But the tide has turned, and that's why the secular people are so on the defensive from us, because they see they're losing the battle. I'm not sure what you're coming to, but in any case, it's not the discussion. All we're saying, Chofetz Chaim is encouraging you that you have to make sure to strengthen your son. Don't take him out of Beis Medrash. Keep him there as long as you can, because that's the story. That's all we're saying. I don't know, Ron, I love you, but I don't know. I know, you know. We're all living in Eretz Yisrael, Ron. I don't know what you want.
For sure, no, for sure. Being the way it's being drawn out, and obviously yes, and it is Yom Ha'atzmaut, and this is a very good time for it. The point being is that you're driving this lesson here of being mechazek
and make sure that Torah learning and this and is talking about environments, even though in the Torah that they're learning, it says that this is what happens when you're living in chul, as opposed to doing something about it. It's like, no, we have to sit in yeshiva. Like, no, you have to do what the Gemara
No, it
says.
doesn't. Ron, it doesn't say living in Eretz Yisrael uh, is a guarantee to be learning Torah. It doesn't say that.
No, but
It
it's an
doesn't.
environment
It's not
conducive
even
to
our topic,
kedusha.
Ron. All the Chofetz Chaim is saying, he didn't say Chul, he didn't say Eretz Yisrael, he didn't get into any of that. He's just saying he's talking his times with Torah, with more and more and more Jews were leaving the fold. They were falling off. They're going off the derech, and he was saying how important it is, and bringing sources how important it is to sit and learn Torah. That's the whole discussion, and nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael, and nothing to do with Chutz La'aretz, nothing.
That's where we're cut.
He didn't mention the word Eretz Yisrael.
Saying that's where we're cut off on is that it sounds like the Chofetz Chaim is trying to push an agenda when it's a losing battle because he's not doing it in the right place.
But it's not a losing battle. In America also today, Torah is getting stronger and stronger. The biggest yeshiva in the world is in Lakewood, right? Or maybe Mir, I'm not sure which was the biggest. The Torah is getting stronger and stronger in America today. Yeshivas are flourishing.
According to Pinchas Winston, he says that the Torah being learned in Chutz La'aretz is actually strengthening the Kochas Atuma. It says here, it says in Ksubis 110b, says Tana Rabbanim Lo'olam Yadur Adam Be'eretz Yisrael Afilu Be'ir Sherubash of the Kochavim V'al Yadur B'chutz La'aretz. So you tell me, how are you going ahead and learning that in your present? Let's go learn Torah, and it's like, nah, not good. So it doesn't matter how much Jews and Torah you have. This is the Gemara you allegedly be learning. And like, no, you know what? No, let's sit here. Like, no, it's not about learning.